Take each game and its merits there.
Hello and welcome to our latest episode of Each Game on Its Merits, where we go through every single Irish senior international ever played, and we're now up to April of 1929 and we're talking about Ireland versus Belgium. My name is Eibhilin O'Reardon and as always I'm joined by...
Hello, I'm Jerry Farrell.
Jerry Farrell, who is our resident historian. Jerry, we're now talking about the first game played in Dublin since 1924. No, I'm wrong. Since 1927.
Yes, okay. So we played Lansdowne Road, Italy in 1927. We lose 2-1. So we haven't played a home game in nearly 2 years.
Right, so we played against America in 1924. We played against Italy in 1927. And then we played now in Dalymount Park. So this is a rarity for Irish football fans to come and see the Irish team play. Now we're playing against Belgium again, so this is the second of our 3-part trilogy of playing against Belgium. And again, going back to this idea of playing basically once a year, whereas the IFA are playing in the international competition of the home nation. So this game is played in April of 1929, the 20th of April, in front of 15,000 people in Dalymount Park. The Irish team, Tom Farquharson.
Yes.
Well,
we'll have to have a proper conversation.
We probably need to have a whole different chat about him. But anyway, Cardiff City, a former IRA man, exiled to Wales because of his IRA activity, wins the FA Cup in 1927 with Cardiff City as their goalkeeper, and is a really interesting chap. And there's a lot of history between him and the penalty kick, because known as the penalty king, it is said that he changed the rule, or the rule was changed because of him, for goalkeepers to stay on their line, because he used to rush off his line when facing a penalty kick. So Tom Farquharson makes his debut, Cardiff City. Not too many players actually from foreign leagues are representing Ireland at this time, but anyway, he's one of them. The other, I see Barnsley, Charlie Dowdall is playing for Barnsley, and Mick O'Brien is from Walsall FC. So anyway, Jim Maguire from Shamrock Rovers, John Burke from Shamrock Rovers, William Glenn from Shamrock Rovers, John Joe Flood from Shamrock Rovers. 4 Rovers players in this side. John Joe Flood gets a hat-trick in this game. Paddy Barry from Fordsons, Jimmy Bermingham, and we're going to return to have an extended conversation about him. David "Babby" Byrne, the youngest of 11 children, you say?
Youngest of 11, hence Babby Byrne, another of that great Rings End players.
Yeah.
This is the most fertile breeding ground for footballers in the state. He apparently hated the name Babby. We should say he's the first.
His parents were quite fertile as well.
Indeed, yeah. So he's probably more associated with Rovers, although he's playing for Shells when he's first capped. Shells have won the league this year, but only have him in the starting 11, where Bows came second and they have a couple of players, and Rovers came third and they have several players. So right. David Byrne, he also, we should say, he's the first League of Ireland player to score more than 100 league goals in his career.
Right. He goes to Manchester United, David "Babby" Byrne, at one point?
Yeah, he has a brief spell at United. It doesn't work out well because United are basically hiring a whole load of highly priced players from Scotland. Right. He gets frozen out of the team and his manager basically says, "Oh well, I got you for next to nothing. I'm playing these guys because I spent £2,000 or £3,000 on them." He actually takes him to one of the early versions of the Players Union. They have a bit of a falling out and they agree to release him. And he ends up playing in the Irish League for a number of years. So he plays for Coleraine and he later plays for Larne.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Robert Egan, who plays for Dundalk and is from Tipperary. So I'll just go through the match report again from Donald Cullen's book, and it says a 4-0 win. I mean, Flood gets a hat-trick. So this is a solid win. This is a solid result. The first half was dominated by Belgium, and the Irish should have been 2 goals down before the break. They were not. That they were not was a combination of poor Belgian finishing and some excellent goalkeeping by Farquharson, our hero, our man. It was Ireland, however, who went in at the break a goal in front when Byrne sent in Flood to score 2 minutes before the intro. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the offside rule had changed, so you no longer needed 3 players between, if you like, the ball being played through. It was now 2, which was the goalkeeper and the last defender, if you like.
And did liberalise a bit of scoring as well.
Yeah.
The years thereafter.
So that goal seemed to unsettle Belgium, for as they continued to dominate the second period, they again lacked finish. Raymond Brain had a certain goal blocked on the line by Maguire, but other than that, their shooting was poor. Ireland went 2-0 after 73 minutes. Ferguson's long kick out was headed on by Birmingham to Byrne, who outpaced the defence and shot past a static Summers. And then O'Brien and Dowdall sent Flood in for the third, and Flood completed his hat-trick following a pass by Birmingham. So a comprehensive 4-0 win for the Irish on Saturday the 20th of April 1929 against Belgium. That is a romp, if you might say, Jerry. So talk to me about some of these players and the significance of this win.
Well, I suppose the hat-trick there, John Joe Flood, we should mention him first and foremost.
Yeah.
We'll come back to Tom Parkinson because we need to talk about him properly, but John Joe Flood, he scores a hat-trick because the USA game isn't recognised as a full international. This is at present count as the first international hat-trick by an Irish player.
Okay, but we will rectify that.
We will rectify that. Byrne, as we say, gets the other goal. He's had an interesting career. He's back and forth between Shells and Shamrock Rovers. He plays briefly over in England for Manchester United. It's an interesting. We have two Tipperary men in the team. I don't know if we've had that before. So John Burke, who's the captain, who's a World War I veteran, he's originally from Tip. Although he becomes one of Rovers' most decorated players. His son, also John Burke, also plays for Shamrock Rovers in a couple of decades after this. And then Bob Egan, as we said, the first man capped as a Dundalk player. He's a Tip man originally. Charlie Dowdall, we mentioned before, he was a member of the Olympic squad, so he's now playing professionally in England for Barnsley. Now, it is worth saying that you mentioned, Aon, that we don't have many players released by English clubs. We get Ferguson, who's already been capped several times by the IFA.
Yes.
And I know that'll become a bigger issue in a couple of years' time.
Because he refuses to play for them.
Yes, exactly. He decides that he wants to throw his lot in solely with the FAI, but he's capped, as we said in a previous episode, he was going to be capped earlier, but club commitments, including playing in the FA Cup final, which he wins in 1927 with Cardiff, get in the way of that. But he's making his debut here. Cardiff, unfortunately, are kind of, that team is past their peak, so they've been one of the dominant sides. They've come runners up in the league. They've got 2 cup finals. They've won one of them, but they're kind of on a slow decline at the moment. And they do actually try to sell Ferguson at one stage to cash in on him, but they don't make that sale in the end. Mick O'Brien, who we've mentioned in previous episodes, he's coming towards the end of a very good career as well. He's kind of dropping down the leagues, but he's a very important player. William Saki Glenn.
I seem to remember David Kelly when he's first played for Ireland in the 80s, so he was from Warsaw.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he was another Irish Warszawian.
Warsaw.
just outside Birmingham, I believe. Also.
Okay, very good.
So, and then we're going to come to Jimmy Bermingham separately. We're going to have a special talk about him. And William Saki Glenn, he's improving this, because if you remember, he plays in the Italy game and he kind of gets criticised in the match report as being a bit rough around the edges. He's improving as a player. He becomes kind of the designated kind of half-back in that Irish team. He's generally available because he's a Rovers player, and he's also the guy who tends to be over free kick and penalty taking duties as well.
Right. Okay. 6 debutants, so 6 new players. So again, the side is chopping and changing, and you can actually understand why an English club who has an international on their books, who's been called up by 2 separate international associations, will be reluctant to allow the FAI international to be let go. And at this time, it really was the club. Well, look, it has always been, but the club really held all the cards. You were owned by the club, and if you get in the same week or around about the same time, or even the same month, 2 different call-ups from 2 separate international associations, and you need this player, you can kind of understand why they might be a bit exasperated. So there's one thing to be sent over for IFA Ireland, but FAI Ireland as well. And I'm quite sure at this time, FAI Ireland are still trying to find friends in the international arena, and they wouldn't have been too friendly with the English FA or the Scottish FA or the Welsh FA.
And there's no international window, there's no designated international breaks by UEFA who don't exist yet, or FIFA. And if you look at it, so okay, we get Ferguson released by Cardiff City, but the other players who are playing in England are released by Barnsley and Walsall, who are lower league clubs, who maybe go, well, do you know what, it's prestigious or something like that for us to have an international on our books. Whereas if you're Manchester United or Tottenham Hotspur or Arsenal, whoever it might be, and you have teams full of internationals, it's not a big deal for you. And as you say, it's just awkward and complicated, and you might get a player injured, and why would you want to do that?
I get the sense from this game that 4-0 kind of flatters the Irish.
It does a little bit. And one thing we're saying, John Joe Flood, I was talking about him a bit earlier, he does have some English league experience. He's goes back and forth, so he has a season with Crystal Palace, he has a season with Leeds United, where him and Bob Fulham actually joined Leeds for a year in the early 20s. So there is a bit of experience there. But yeah, I think it does flatter us a bit. All the reports kind of say that Belgium aren't as bad as they're made out, and that Farquharson does have a great goal. Will we talk a bit about Tom Farquharson? You've kind of introduced him.
Well, I think he's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Farquharson, because I remember doing our football walking tour, Jerry, and you came on, and this is like 3 or 4 years ago, and you told me about him, and I couldn't believe it. First of all, it took me ages to get how to pronounce his name correctly. It's a kind of a Scots Presbyterian name.
Yes.
If you see it written down, you go, well, how on earth am I going to pronounce that? But Farquharson is the way it's pronounced. And he was originating from Botanic Avenue, and the family moved to Jones's Road. Yeah. So he's very much living beside Croke Park, and
in what is now Croke Park. So
yeah,
effectively his house was where
the Hogan Stand is now. Right. Okay. So, and around 1920, he befriends. Sorry, he didn't befriend him. He already knew Sean Lemass from school, so he went to O'Connell's, and they went to school together. And they were arrested, or in around 1920, in around the hot time of the War of Independence. Is it for taking down wanted posters, or there's something about posters?
They're around Stephen's Green, and they're pulling down wanted posters
Dan Breen or whatever,
and recruitment posters for the British Army.
Right.
He and Lemass are arrested. Now, as we say, he's living on Jones Road. His father has a kind of yard there because his father is like a builder's merchant and supplier.
And he has contacts or contracts with the British Army. He does business with the British Army.
And he does a bit of business even with Mountjoy Prison and so on. So he puts in a good word. Right. Says, look, can you get my son out of Dodge? And they say, we'll let him go.
Because the two of them are thrown into Mountjoy.
Yes.
So there's an intervention there. Hard to know whether Farquharson Senior had sort of had different political allegiance. That might be unfair, but certainly he has a chat with some of the people he has.
He's
some
professionally acquainted with these people from his job, and he says, "Look, my son got caught up in this. Can you help him?"
He's only a young fella. He doesn't know what he's up to. Can you help him? And the solution is that young Tom needs to skip the country and go to Wales.
Yes, and so he's been playing soccer here in Ireland for a junior club called Annally. They won a junior cup. There is a kind of story that says, "Oh, he never played soccer till he went to Wales." He did play soccer here, but just not for a League of Ireland club. He goes over to South Wales. He's playing for a local kind of small village team. He's also playing a bit of rugby, and he gets spotted by Cardiff City. They sign him as a reserve goalkeeper, but by the end of that first season, he's already made his first team debut in the top flight of the English.
Right. I get the sense from that he's a big character.
Yes.
That he's a headbanger, right, and that he commands his area robustly. He's not a shrinking violet. He has a gun in his kit bag for every game.
Which is attested by a couple of people. He carries a gun.
Now, partly because he didn't want his IRA background to come back to haunt him, but also because if he felt somebody wasn't really playing well or wasn't really putting it in, he'd whip out the gun and brandish it at them.
Yeah, a former teammate does say that he produced it at half time as kind of an encouragement to the players.
An encouragement, yes. Right. But you would be encouraged, I suppose, if somebody was to point a gun at you. Right. And in this 1927 run to the FA Cup, ladies and gentlemen, it mightn't be the biggest competition in England today, but at the time,
it's huge.
It's huge.
It is
because it culminates in this big glorious game. It's the centerpiece of the English game. It's at
by
Wembley.
27, Wembley is opened.
It's a massive crowd attended. So it even in my childhood, the FA Cup was on par with the league almost, because it had just had this prestige about it and the history about it. So Cardiff, they get to this final. I think on the back of some of his brilliance in saving penalties. Possibly conceding a lot of them, but definitely saving them, and he becomes known as a penalty king because he has this tactic that when the whistle is blown, he races off the line and stops it, and there's no rule to stop him. And anyway, they win the FA Cup in 1927. There's an incident actually in the game where the Arsenal goalkeeper fumbles the ball to facilitate Cardiff scoring, and I think I have a memory of that there's some tradition that has gone on from then that Arsenal goalkeeper does not wear the same jersey colour as that goalkeeper wore at the time. I think there's something that still resonates. So this game
it's a scrappy 1-0 win. So Cardiff win it for their only time. It is a scrappy 1-0 win, but it is probably the high point in their club history.
But there's a muscle memory within the Arsenal, still the Arsenal Football Club,
nearly 90 years later,
of this game being a disaster, that the goalkeeper made a bag. I think it's something like that he wore. I'm open to correction on this. He wore
Arsenal fans.
He wore a green shirt, and therefore they've never worn a green shirt in a final since. But that may be wrong. But anyway, so Tom Farquharson anyway, and later on he gets a call up for the IFA, as you say, and he turns down the invitation because these are not the authentic Ireland. He's much more at ease with the FAI Ireland, which have the anthem and the green shirt and the shamrock and
it's
tricolour.
A great propaganda coup for the FAI
because he's a big name player.
And also not only is he turning down a call up, he's turning down a match fee, a significant match fee. I think the IFA are giving £10 appearance fees for the national team, which is 2 weeks' wages effectively. So at a time when players' careers are very precarious, that's a lot of money to turn down on a point of principle.
So when the IFA are saying this FAI Ireland team are pathetic, they only play against Catholic countries, they've got one game a year, look at us, we're mixing up with the big boys. For somebody like him to say no, I'm choosing the FAI, that's a big moment.
It is, absolutely.
Legitimizes the FAI to a degree. Okay, and there just seems to be a bit more of a kind of a I don't know, a mix of successful players who are now over in England in this side, and then to win 4-0, you feel like you're almost emerging as a football nation.
Exactly, and look, we'll come
having beaten them 4-2 the year before.
Yes, exactly.
And this is a team, as you said before, that won the gold medal in 1920, even in the Olympics, even though under controversial circumstances, and they are going to go to the World Cup as one of the only 4 teams that go to the World Cup from Europe in 1930. So
the vice president of FIFA is a Belgian, and he wants them very much to go. He's backed the plan for a World Cup, so he's encouraging his team to go, and I think the king actually contributes towards the expenses of the team touring. Worth saying that Ireland were invited to participate in the 1930 World Cup,
yes,
and we turned the opportunity down.
Yes.
One thing, if I kind of very
because of money, because we couldn't afford it.
We felt we couldn't afford it. Now
the players probably couldn't afford it either. Yeah,
taking time off work, because most of those players are part-time players. They have day jobs. One thing I would just like to mention: a few months after this game, around the time of this game, Bohemians play in Liège, invited to a tournament called the Aciéries d'Anglure. So Anglure is the region around Liège. It's a big steel.
That's brilliantly even served French there as well. French, Jerry.
It's a Flemish pronunciation.
Oh, sorry. There you go. See, I wouldn't know the difference between French and Flemish.
And anglers are, I think that the Anglure is the steel mill. So it's the steel mills competition, and it's an invitational tournament. So they've invited a lot of prominent British teams in the past. They've invited Dutch teams like PSV of Eindhoven and things like that.
And Bows decide to go.
The Bows are invited because obviously they're the league champions from the previous year.
Yes.
Obviously we have this connection, I imagine, partially because we played Belgium in Liège a year before. They're familiar with some of there's 4 Bows players on that team. It probably played a part in it. So Bows represent the League of Ireland. They win that tournament that includes Standard Liège and another local team called Chillier. So Bows win a European trophy in 1929 in Belgium, beating 2 Belgian clubs.
Okay, not a small achievement.
Yes, not an insignificant achievement.
Okay, so we're mixing it on the international stage here. We're
for club and country.
For club and country, yeah. I mean, when you think of the results that Ireland had in the early years of the of international football from Ireland, getting hammered by England, getting hammered by Scotland, being hammered by Wales. In this period of time, even the games that we lose them, pretty narrowly. And this is a solid win here, and some of these players are now becoming probably known for their exploits in the League of Ireland and on the international stage. So we're moving now. So last game we play in the 1920s, but I am constantly interested in the fact that we really do play very infrequent games in Dublin.
Yeah, and I mean, as I say, this is our first game in 2 years, and there is that sort of reciprocal thing that if you play a team, it's kind of agreed that you'll play them.
Which just happens with Spain. So we don't play another game in Dublin until 1931, and then after that we don't play another game until 1934.
But we do have World Cup qualifying for the 34 World Cup, which actually creates some of that regular competition. We're in qualifying groups, and of course we're going to get drawn with some of our old friends that we've already met, Belgium and the Netherlands.
Okay, very good.
So one player we did talk about, we haven't really mentioned much, so we're going to have a little bit more of an in-depth piece on him, is Jimmy Bermingham, Bohemian player who's making his debut here. A man who, not willingly, but often did court controversy. And a multi-sports, a talented individual as well. And we have his grandson, Mossy Bermingham, who's going to join us to talk about his granddad and his sporting life. So we're delighted to have on the podcast Mossy Bermingham. And Mossy, you're the grandson of Jimmy Bermingham. We've been talking about him a little bit earlier here. He played in that win over Belgium in 1929. He was a star player for Bohemians, but he had a very diverse and interesting sporting career. Do you want me to just tell us a little bit about your relationship with your granddad and what you know about his sporting career? Because it is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, of course. I would say he had an illustrated career. He was a very humble man. His first club were Brooklyn. He left Brooklyn and joined the Free State Army. Went down to Kerry, founded in Kerry. He was with the Dublin Guard. He was spotted by Dick Fitzgerald in playing for the Kerry County Championship in the Army, and was asked would he play for Kerry.
Playing Gaelic football now for any listeners. He wasn't playing soccer.
Gaelic football, yeah. No, just Gaelic football. This is I'm trying to go from where my grandfather started to. We'll go on to the Bows game, but played in the Munster final for Kerry. Won the Munster championship medal with Kerry. Moved back up to Dublin in 1924. When rejoined Brooklyn. Then he got a call from Dick Fitzgerald, who was the manager of Kerry. He came down to Dublin and asked my grandfather would he play in the All-Ireland final against Dublin in 1920. The 1923 final wasn't played till 24 because Kerry wouldn't play it because they wanted political prisoners released, the likes of Austin Stack and that. So it was the 1923 final was played in the May of 24, but my grandfather declined the offer. There's not many people who refuse Kerry to play in an All-Ireland final.
And Mossy, he had no Kerry connections other than he had been stationed there during the war.
No, none at all. He was from Pear Street in Dublin. He was born in 5 brothers he had. The only connection he had, we don't even know. I'm still trying to research it if he played Gaelic before he went down to Fannet. But from there, he in 1925 he joined Bows. 26-27 season he was the top goal scorer. He was part of the 27-28 Immortals that won the done the clean sweep. No side has done it before or since. He then captained Bows in 1929 to a league and shield, and played in Belgium in a European tournament, which Bows won as well. 1930 was kind of the pinnacle of his soccer career. He got a call up for the Free State, and funny enough, a friend of mine, John Gorman, his grandfather was the famous Saki Glynn from Rovers.
Yes, Rovers player, yeah.
And he is sat next to Saki Glynn in that photograph. Saki Glynn was playing in that game. I don't really know too much about that game because we have it
here, Mossy. So it was actually around the time Bows played that tournament in Belgium. It was April 1929.
Yeah.
And they played them in Dalymount and won 4-0, and it was a very comfortable win. But we have the team here, and as you say, it was Tom Farquharson in goal, who we've just been talking about. Jim Maguire, John Burke, and Saki Glenn were kind of part of the defence. They were all Rovers players. Mick McGraw, who was playing in England. Paddy Berry, who was a Fordson's player. Your granddad, Jimmy. John Joe Flood, who scored a hat-trick that day. He was a Rovers player.
Right, yeah.
David Byrne, who was playing for Shells. Charlie Dowdall, who was then at Barnsley, but was ex-James's Gate. And a guy called Bob Egan, who was a Dundalk player. So majority League of Ireland team, as you can hear. Only 3 players from outside the league.
Yeah, I don't really know too much about that game. We have the cap that my grandfather got for that game. It was unfortunately it was the only one and only cap he got for well, let's just say the Republic of Ireland, because 1930, as you know yourself, he went up and played in an All-Ireland side that beat English 3-1 up in Cliftonville.
So let's just talk, because if we do a little bit of background on it, so Bows are obviously an amateur team.
Yeah.
The IFA, so based up in Belfast, select some players who are, from Dublin to play for the Ireland amateur side against England.
That's
including, Alex Morton,
Matt Hartiger, and
Jimmy Bermingham, and then Jimmy McMahon as well, who is a man.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
because he's a dub and he's selected, he gets banned by the FAI.
He did, yeah. He was banned by the FAI because my grandfather said he went up there under amateur rules and FIFA rules at the time. I think it was FIFA, whatever it is, said that as an amateur you could do what they were doing. He actually brought us
against England as well. Did they beat them? Was it 3-1? I think
they beat England 3-1, and he from the reports from the game, he had a great game. He had a brilliant game. But came back, he was banned from playing League of Ireland football or Free State football, whatever way you want to say it. He brought the FAI to the High Court. Gavin Emmett Duffy, he was his counsel. He was one of the men who signed the Anglo-Irish agreement with Collins.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I don't know where he managed to get such a high profile counsel from, or whether it was pre-organised.
At that time, he probably would have been banned from the GAA because he was a soccer player. If he was banned from the FAI, he'd have no game to play at all.
No, that was it. They were taking his means of living away, like his life. It was his whole life, and I believe at the time, Walsall were looking at him.
So he could have gone to play profession in England. Differently.
Yes, if things had worked out differently, he more than likely would have gone on and played in England. He left Bows in 1930, joined Dolphin. I think he won League of Ireland with Dolphin. Then he went to Broadville, and then he just went amateur then after that. But it's an amazing story to think that he had to go through a court case, which to me is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And did he win the court case?
No. Well, they came to an agreement that the 4 players would pledge allegiance to the FAI.
They wouldn't be selected to play for the IFA again, or if they did, they would turn them down.
Okay. They would turn them down. And my grandfather got 2 offers to play against Italy and Scotland by the IFA, and he did turn them down.
Wow. I hear he only recently got the Munster medal from...
15 years I've been chasing this medal.
Really?
15 years, yeah. I had done it before my dad died. I had kind of said to my dad about it, and my dad said, yes, he did play for Kerry. We never knew. On the 70s, we never knew that he played for Kerry. When the Dublin-Kerry, the famous Dublin-Kerry rivalry was there. And he always said to us, Kerry is my county. I played for Kerry. I won a Munster medal. And we all thought he was just yourself, just doddering on. And eventually I got there.
Did you think he was trying to wind you up when you were kids by saying...
He was just, yeah. Honestly, just because we were all Dublin mad, yourself. It was that Dublin, the 70s, that great Dublin team. But later, I promised my dad before he passed that I would do my best. That was 10 years ago, to try and get it, because he regretted never going looking for it. And it was a long, hard slog. And in fairness, Jer, to yourself, without you, I wouldn't have got it with some of the information you gave me. Thank you very much.
No, I'm happy to help.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We actually make the point on the tour that we do that, there's like about 40 senior internationals from Ringsend, and there's never been anybody from Kerry. Now, Tony O'Connell was actually born in Kerry. He's a former international, but he was raised in Dublin effectively. But it's fascinating for us to hear. I think Savannah McCarthy is actually from Kerry as well, who plays for the Irish women's team. But it's fascinating for us to hear now that not only there's a Kerry connection, but actually has a Munster Championship medal.
Yeah,
who's a senior soccer national as well. His name isn't.
Actually, I don't know whether you know, but Kerry always claim that nobody born outside the county has ever played senior football for them. Vinnie Murphy went down and was told, no, you can play hurling, but you're not playing football. No one ever has. My grandfather has.
He could be the outlier in that case.
Well, the myth's broken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as Kevin Moran or Niall Quinn or Shane Long, that somebody who or Val Harris of that era, that's somebody who achieved winning a championship with a county and then playing senior international soccer. It's a small club, and your grandfather is one of them.
But did Niall Quinn win a Moyna medal with Dublin with the hurlers
with Dublin in the hurling in 1983? All Ireland did also go away. But people like through the years, there's people like
Val Harris,
Con Martin. Did Con Martin win one as well?
Won a Dublin. He won a Leinster title in 1941,
and he didn't get the medal till.
He didn't get a medal until 1971 because of the ban.
That's right. Yeah.
He only had to wait 30 years, though. You had to wait 100.
My grandpa had 101. And it was, I wouldn't mind, it was nearly on the anniversary of the game, the 14th of October last year. It was just after that we got the go ahead from the Munster County Board, commissioned the medal for me granddad.
What was their reaction? What was their interest like from down in Kerry, Mossy, hearing the story? Were they kind of happy to hear it, or did they find anything else out that you didn't know about your granddad's playing career down there?
Well, he was a Dr. Crokes man.
He played with Crokes. He had
to be playing with a club in the county too, who actually play for the county team. But when I started doing this, some of the information I got, I was emailing and sending letters to the Munster Council, and no reply whatsoever. Nothing for years. And then all of a sudden, information started coming out, like the stuff that you gave me, Jer. I found stuff myself, and all of a sudden, everything just started to come together. And we got Niall Cotter from the Sun. Do you know Niall?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Lovely guy. I actually rang. What's his name? I can't think of his name. A mate of mine used to be years ago. He's with the Mayo. It doesn't matter anyway. And he put me on to Niall. And in fairness, Niall was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then I got a phone call out Niall to say Eamon Fitzgerald, ex-Kerry player, wanted to speak to us. And he was doing a book, or is doing a book on Dr. Crokes. And there was 85 players played for Dr. Crokes to play for Kerry. But there was only 84 named in their list, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it dawned on him then when he seen McGanda's name came up. That's the missing player.
And it's not that common a name, Birmingham, especially BERMIN.
That's exactly what Eamon said. Because the Civil War was on, he put two and two together and said this could be a guy from Dublin, who came from Dublin. You know what I mean? Like Con Martin was his commanding officer. Well, Con Brosnan was commanding officer. He was the captain of that Kerry side, but didn't play in the final because he was injured.
And he was freestyle as well.
He was a freestyle, and Dick Fitzgerald as well. And my grandfather was saying to me, like, some of the players that played were IRA men, played that day, and they were given 4 hours grace. Otherwise, they're going to get out of Tralee.
Well, it was a great mender, if you like, in that period of the different sides on the Civil War, because the Civil War in Kerry was pretty brutal, and the G managed to mend some tension and some hurt.
Yeah, but the day before the Munster final, one of the lads out of my grandfather's regiment, Dublin Guards, was actually killed in an ambush. And I can remember him vaguely talking about it, that there was an incendiary device put under a car. And boom.
But it's crazy that they were able to then play together on the same team, potentially with people who were involved or would have known about that, and people who would and we know, as Aon said, how brutal and vicious things got in Kerry during the Civil War. So amazing that was able to happen.
I just so you know now, your granda got an assist in this game against Belgium, by the way, because I have here the report here. It says Ireland went 2-0 up after 73 minutes. Farquharson, who's the goalkeeper, long kick out, was headed on by Birmingham to Byrne, who outpaced the defence and shot past the static Summers, who was in goal for Belgium. So your granda, in modern terms, got an assist.
Says he was only 5'7". How the fuck did he get up and reach to get it up to the head of the road? He was only Eamon Fitzgerald likened to the Gooch. Same weight, same height, red hair, the whole lot.
Yeah, I think especially the Dublin lads back then, they're all kind of smaller fellas. Like Paddy Moore was playing centre forward, and he was 5'5". He's about the height of Maradona, you know.
Yeah, but he had an illustrious career, I would say. Yeah, like I mean, he actually coached Bows in the 50s as well.
It's a fascinating story, Mossy. Really, it is. And look, thanks for coming on and talking about it.
That's great. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on, Mossy.
Bye-bye.
See you down there. Bye-bye.
Fascinating conversation as always, and next week we are talking about our next game against Belgium, which is a 3-1 win in Brussels on the 11th of May 1930, the last of these 3 games against Belgium. So as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on our next episode of Each Game on Its Merits.